Hello, James here. Hope you're doing well. I hope I have a certain amount of time on this video. But I just wanted to make a recording that most of the people are not making aware of it unless on different social media, and it's something that need to be talked about. They always focus on one ethnic group of people, and sometimes it seems like another ethnic group of people. But they feel like one is gaining and one is losing when it comes to different things. But one thing about it is that here is an article when it comes to why is the death rate is rising among white middle-aged Americans. And even though I'm not a middle-aged American, but this is something that need to be addressed. Also, also on this article, there's another article that you
what? No matter how complicated your
me.
taxes are, we provide step-by-step guidance with incredibly accurate and secure software that people seem to really like. With millions
here's
of
an
free
article
returns filed,
on
why not try it out?
the life expectancy of white women. And it's the biggest drop in life expectancy in the USA. This is something that it needs to be addressed. You know, why they're worried about other things. They need to be worried about, you know, what race is going to have the most. And part of it is because of health disparities. Part of it, and just tells you about this article was brought up by the different ranges of drugs, alcohol, and suicide among white Caucasian people, if that's a proper term for it. But here, this one has really stood out. Said, but recruiters realize the numbers and separate men and women find that the increase in death rates only apply to white women, not white men. And a new analyst for the U.S. Centers to Disease Control and Prevention National Center for Health Statistics affirms this view. From 2013 to 2014, white women's life expectancy decreased from 81 years to 2.2 to 80.1 years, according to NCHS. This means that the group of white baby girls born in 2014 can expect to live about 81.1 years, provided the death rates observed in 2014 don't change in their lifetimes. So this is something about the white female. What is her life expectancy is, and compared to, they found, but they said meanwhile the same place said that the life rose from 2013 to 20 among black men and all Hispanics, among black women and white men as a group. Hispanics historically enjoy the high life expectancy rate since the CDC started compiling these stats in 2006 and gains in 2010. And they said blacks had a low, of course blacks they say on the lower hand, lowest expectancies, and the gap between separate from the whites continued to shrink. So this is the life expectancy, and this is an article that said why is death rate rise among middle-aged Americans. So this is put this together. Well, about the ages from 45 to 54, and this is something that over in the white community need to be concerned about. Suicide rates is high. Drug use is high. And decline in mental health is there. So it's higher and higher numbers among middle-class whites than other people. This is the stats. And I showed you on the other page the life expectancy of what they said. And this is something that I'm surprised no one don't really talk about in the community. But let me stop this right here.
Entertainment and pop culture. His goal? Understanding how they define, push, and conquer their limits. Click the play button below to hear a recent episode. Support for NPR comes from the American Express Business Platinum Card. Learn more at americanexpress.com/bplatinum.
For years, it was almost a given. The annual mortality rate in the United States would generally decline. So it was a pretty big shock when a report came out more than a year ago showing death rates were actually going up for middle-aged white Americans. At the time, the numbers did not explain why, but the authors now believe they better understand these deaths. They are calling them deaths of despair. The authors, Ann Case and Angus Deaton, are economists at Princeton University. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Hi, it's good to be with you.
Professor Deaton, let me start with you. If you could just take us back to when you originally discovered this trend that middle-aged whites in the United States, the death rate was increasing. Why did this surprise you? Why was it so significant?
Mortality rates have been going down over 100 years or more, and then for all of this to suddenly go into reverse, we thought it just must be wrong. In fact, we spent weeks checking our numbers because we just couldn't believe, A, that this had happened, or B, that if it had happened, someone else must already have noticed.
Well, Professor Case, let me bring you in here. In what way have you solved the mystery now? What might be causing this?
Well, what we've been able to document is that what we see with these deaths of despair has been accompanied by reduced labor force participation, reduced marriage rates, increases in reports of poor health, of poor mental health. So we are beginning to thread a story in which it's possible, it's consistent with the labor market collapsing for people with less than a college degree. And then in turn, that having effects on the kind of economic and social supports that we usually think people need in order to thrive.
I guess we should stress that, we were just talking about people who are white, who are seen as doing better economically than minorities in this country. So what is the comparison when we look at the death rates, that you're seeing among white Americans versus African Americans?
Well, it's always been true that mortality rates have been higher and life expectancy shorter for African Americans than for whites. What is happening now is that gap is closing. If you compare whites out of VA, their mortality rates are now higher than mortality rates for African Americans as a whole. It's as if poorly educated whites have now taken over from blacks as the lowest rung in society in terms of mortality rates.
Does it matter where you live? I mean, I was sort of astonished that some of the worst death rates you're seeing might be, say, in the city of Baltimore or might be in a rural community in West Virginia.
Yeah, we were surprised by that as well. There's a stereotype when people think about drug overdose or they think about these deaths of despair, their minds might turn to Appalachia, and it certainly is a problem in West Virginia, in Kentucky, and Tennessee, but it's also a problem in Baltimore City, for example. There's not a part of the country that has not been touched by this.
Well, take this all together and tell me what story this tells about our country at this moment.
Well, we're thinking of this in terms of something that's really been going on for a long time. And we think of this as part of the decline of the white working class. If you go back to the early 70s, when you had the so-called blue-collar aristocrats, those jobs have slowly crumbled away, and many, many more men are finding themselves in a much more hostile labor market with lower wages and lower quality jobs. There's a sense in which these people have lost the sense of status, the sense of belonging. And, these are classic preconditions for suicides.
And we should say this is, if you compare the United States to other comparable countries, wealthy countries, I mean, this is not being seen in other parts of the world.
That's right. You see tiny traces of it. Canada thinks they have an opioid problem, for instance. We saw some of it in Scotland at some point when we looked. But when you put it on the same picture as the U.S., it just dwarfs it. It may be to do, Europe has much more advanced social safety net than we have in the U.S., which of course we're in the process of taking apart, making it even further gap from what happens in Europe.
Angus Deaton and Ann Case, thank you to you both.
I want to comment right here. You see, there it is right there. See, where there was genocide in the city, now this is part of the curse. This is a part of the curse that has been over the indigenous people, the African people. And this was started ancient times. And even though that it has affected the poor white community, but it's going up into the suburban community. And people, where Donald Trump go, country, and people out there in different areas in Trump land, this is going to affect them. This is affecting them as we speak. And so, this is beginning of the curse. But it was 10 for the inner city towards blacks and Latinos. Now is reversing because this was brought up decades ago, and this is part of the curse that is coming upon you. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about, and no one seeks no joy in watching the human race diminish like this. But it's not hitting a certain dimension, as you hear. It's not just hitting some poor people who were white in West Virginia. It's hitting in the suburbs. It's hitting in exclusive areas of Europe. There are people overdosing. And as you see, the death rates and everything. So this is what we try to tell you. But they designed, the ones that designed this was designed first. The experiment was supposed to be on the blacks and then the native people's population started dropping. Then it was supposed to work towards on the African American and brown people. So now their numbers were supposed to dwindle. But the curse has hit them over time. This is a generational thing that has happened, and this is due. And as you hear the man saying, see, when you don't do right by people, it's gonna come for you. And even though there's some innocent people being caught up in this, but you see white supremacy and white nationalism is coming down. It can be destroyed like that. What I'm saying, this is coming down. So I hope the Bidens of the world, the Trumps of the world, the DeSantis of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world, is at your backyard. This is affecting your people. This is affecting because you don't want to do the right thing. It's affecting people. Your voting block. People your kids. People go to school with your college age kids, your grandkids. People in your neighborhood, their kids. It's affecting them. The curse is affecting them. This is beginning of the 2019. This is what I'm saying. This is happening. Someone had to bring it to you and show it to you. This is why I'm doing this video. Because it's a warning. Because this is part of it. This is part of the curse on the white middle class. The upper class. Look at it. This is the part of the curse. Look at the charts. This is part of the curse. You don't want to do right. It's coming back towards you. So take heed to the warning. Until the next time, you can take care. This is truth coming forth.